starting the recording. It won't have audio from you guys, but it'll have like what I'm saying. So feel free with that. All right, there's Peter Griffin because we haven't seen it enough. All right, so this is my different computer, so bear with me. All right, can everyone see the purchase and sale agreement right here?
Yeah, I can see it.
Cool, awesome. All right, so this is fresh off the freewholesaling.com. A great resource for really everything you can need. Zach does a great job. We love Zach. I do not own this. I'm not a lawyer. This is not any kind of specific advice. If you want to, you have to go to a real estate attorney. I got to give that disclosure, but realistically, this is the most simple document you'll probably ever see when it comes to real estate. I've seen way worse, so we're just going to kind of go over it, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. This is like literally just downloaded, so as you can see, there's the example up on top. I always do the editing whenever I get it, and then, oh no, it's two. You just delete the top part, and then you got to move the second one down. That's like how you start it. So now we have two. Okay. Ooh. No, I wanted one. Okay, there we go. All right. So the purchase and sale agreement is the one you start with. It's also the first one in the order. It's got to basically be the basis of it, and you have to make sure that you got a motivated seller. You know what your price is going to be at. You've kind of talked through all the loops. You built some rapport, and this is going to come from the seller. And the seller is the most important part in wholesaling because whatever the seller says is basically going to kind of go, or there won't be a deal. If they don't want to do something, we can't make them do it. Like everyone thinks the buyers are very important, and they are, but like at the end of the day, the seller is everything. So for the beginning of it, it's just this agreement is made, and then you do the date. I'm just going to fill out today as if like we're doing an agreement right here. So that's how I'm going to just kind of style it so you guys can know a real life example. And then you just kind of go over it, hover over, type in February horribly. And then I like to just add the 25 at the end right there. And then for a pretty important note, it says between sellers and between buyers. So I've never used the buyers part, but the sellers part is very common because you typically, if it's a property owned by a wife and a husband, you have to get both of their signatures and you have to put both of their names down. So who's going to be the husband and wife? Here, let's go. Who am I picking? Everyone got.
I'll go.
You wait, what?
I'll go.
Okay, Quintina. Who wants to marry Quintina? Oh, no brave takers?
I'll volunteer as tribute.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Anthony. Okay, between Anthony and then. Whoop, oh my gosh, typing wrong. All right, and then I like to always bring the backspaces back so that it looks kind of like normal document. And then I'll be the buyer because big flex. Actually, no, we're gonna hover over the mouse, and I'm gonna not look, and then whoever it stops at. Quintina is the buyer. No, that doesn't make sense. You can't also be the buyer. Okay, Rihanna keeps. Yeah. So you put them as the buyers, and then you're gonna have to go get the street address. I'm gonna we're just gonna make up 321 Main Street. For that, then you basically get the city. There we go. That's an actual zip code though, but that's okay. And then the legal description is a part that takes a little more effort. So if you're lucky, it is posted on Zillow, but they are not always posted on Zillow. The easiest way to find a legal description without paying any money, with no out-of-pocket expenses, is either one, to call a title company and ask them, like, hey, can you give me the description of this property before you go to this meeting? Like the legal description, typically they'll be able to look that up and tell you, yep, it's like this legal description. Or you can go to the county assessor, and they can also, because typically they'll give you the assessed value of a property, and they'll tell you the legal description for it too. And it's very important because this is like what the actual lawyers and like the transaction, the company, this is all what it comes down to. Even if you messed up the street address somehow, they're gonna go by the legal description. Whoops, I am screwing with the document. I'm just gonna Control Z that. Yeah, so that legal description, very important.
I know PropWire sometimes has it as well.
Oh,
I don't know how
PropWire as
accurate
well.
it is.
Yes, absolutely. Good note. Yes. I don't use PropWire a whole lot, so that's why I didn't mention it, but it's also a great free tool. I recommend you guys take notes and like have a little notepad next to you for anything that you don't quite, like, or anything that makes extra sense to you or that you want to know for later. So yet again, Zillow if you're lucky, but kind of rare. County assessor, your title company, or PropWire. All great for free too. Like, of course, if you have a paid software like XLeads or anything else kind of you like, or Batch Dialer, or I mean, Deal Machine or anything, you'll be able to see it on there as well. All right, so then we get to the next part, and this is actually the part that a lot of people get stuck up on that I've noticed in the community and a lot of people I've helped, where they think like, hey, I'm gonna have to put some money down because the total deposit right here says. Now, if you are in person with the seller, this will almost never be an issue, honestly. You can just tell them, hey, I'm not gonna be the one putting any deposit or anything down. It's gonna be the buyer, if they choose to, like, to do that. And honestly, they're just not even, they're like, in person you can just put zero right in front of them. They're not gonna care because they're gonna see the next amounts and they're gonna be happy with it because it's gonna be the price they want. If it's virtual though, which most of us are, it is a bit different. You have to explain a bit of the process. You say, hey, I don't put down any earnest money usually, or I can put down $100 if you have the money to spare with it, because sometimes people will do 10 to 100, but I find anything under 100 typically is like not a good thing to do. And if you back out of the deal, you do get your 100 back, because this goes to a title company afterwards. So, and then if the deal doesn't close, you get the money back. But it's pretty important to just have a little bit of a conversation with the seller on the phone, because when you're signing this with a seller virtually, you should be on the phone explaining them how it goes. Yesterday I did one. That's exactly how it was. We were going over it. Like, it's honestly so simple that when you're talking to a seller with it, you don't even have to tell them all these like longer parts. You don't have to read this word for word or anything. You can just tell them what's important, what's not important. And one of the important things is that we typically do $0 down for a deposit because our buyers would be doing it, and we just want to give them cash at closing, and that's what they want. So, and then for example, for here, so the cash due to the seller at closing and the total price are always going to be the same from what I've noticed. I don't know unless you put the deposit down. If you put the deposit down, you add that to the total price at the bottom. So we'll do an example with it just in case. You could, like, just to make it a little clearer in your brain. So we'll ask, $100,000 for a property. Yeah, you do the comma, but you don't need to do the dollar sign. It's on the left already. And then, so that would make it 100. But yet again, it's you don't need to do the total deposit. I typically just do 0, and that works way better because then it looks nice. And as soon as they see them, I would recommend to always you agree to the price kind of before this a little bit. Don't go into the contract and then tell them the price. Agree with it beforehand, and then once they see that and they see the 0 deposit, but they see the number they wanted afterwards, they don't care. And then, so we'll go over the sections right now because it's a little important to us as wholesalers, and these are the sections that actually define any good wholesaling contract. So the earnest money is to be deposited with a licensed title company or attorney within 48 hours of the acceptance and ratification offer. So if you told them, hey, I'm going to give you $100 in a deposit fee, what you do is when you put this contract in, you give them $100 with the contract. You can do that through email. You can do that through in person. That's the way I've done it, but I also never really have done money like a deposit. And then we got probations, impounds, and security deposits. So any loan interest, property taxes, insurance, and rents shall be probated as of the date of closing. All security deposits shall be transferred to the buyer at closing, and all impound accounts for taxes and insurance are included in the purchase price and shall be transferred to buyer at closing. Any shortage in these accounts shall be charged to the seller at closing. Now, if you read that one and you see with the total deposit, it might sound like this goes to our buyer, but remember this is the purchase and sales agreement and you are the buyer, Rihanna Keeves. So if you put $100 down, once you sign the contract, that $100 is still going back to you, assuming it's a good title company. I've never heard of that happening. But you can ask them about it if you put a little bit down. Yet again, I don't even think about it. I don't even mention it really. I just give them the amount that they want for the closing that is going to work for both of us. But what else it means is that these are these are assigned clauses right here. So basically, it's saying that hey, anything that is due at the end is going to be paid for by the buyer and it's going to be taken out of the amount that's owed. So let's say they owe $50,000 in property taxes. I saw in one of the with Rick guys was dealing with. And, I mean, that's insane. I don't know how you get to that level, but that would come out of the amount that is going to go back to the seller. So and the buyer is paying for it, but it's coming out of the seller's share, if that makes sense. The next important one is the closing date and transfer title, and this transaction shall be closed on or before. So we're going to say February 30th, or not February, March 30th for this one. That would give you around 40 days, and then you do 2025. I always like to do at least 30 days. If you do any less, you're asking for trouble, really. The more the better, but typically they say they want to sell the property in 1 to 2 months' time. If they emphasize 2, they're probably not too motivated, but 1 month is like pretty typical. And then, yeah, you just basically always get that extra time to find buyers, which is very important. And then the closing will be held at, and this is kind of confusing if you haven't signed one of these yet, but basically the closing where it's going to be held at is the same as the title company. So I like Tycor personally. That's a title company I've done before. So that could be one. Fidelity could be one. Your local Kansas title company, Chicago title company. It could be anything. So, but this is going to be, this section right here is your title company. That's where it's going to be held at. That's who you're going to send the document to afterwards. And they're going to be mentioned in this contract right here. So you do have to know your title company before you go. I mean, you could theoretically fill it out, and I would only tell them afterwards, though, or I would tell them if you're going to fill it out afterwards and say, hey, I haven't known my title company. I will add it to the contract, and I will send you a photo of it to make sure. But that's kind of a little gray water. And then the seller agrees to transfer our marketable title fee and to clear all the incumbents except those listed and to pay any required state taxes or stamps required to record deed and mortgage. Seller agrees to furnish title insurance and the amount of the purchase price, showing no encumbrances or exceptions other than previously noted. And basically all that part is saying that is that the buyer will basically pay the title fee and like the closing costs. So 4, this is a very important one if you're dealing with like pre-foreclosures or really run down properties that you're trying to buy as is. And then it's the damage to property. Seller shall maintain property is in its current condition and keep it insured against all losses until closing. In the event of destruction covered by insurance, buyer may elect to close and collect the insurance proceeds. So what this means is they cannot collect the insurance money and then sell the house for something. They basically have to get the insurance money before they can close, and then they have to make a new contract if that happens. So if there was a hurricane in Florida and you got something under contract and then the hurricane wiped out your whole house, you have to make a new contract because its condition has changed. And if they have changed the condition of the property, then it means you can you can renegotiate because it says seller shall maintain property in its current condition. So if anything happens, they have to let you know, and you can go right back to the renegotiation table. And if they are not doing that, that is a breach of contract, and that's legal on their side. And you can kind of heavy hand that and say, hey, you're not keeping up to your side of what you signed. You're a man of your word, right? Like you said, you keep it in your current condition, and you know you've burned down the garage. So no, it's not the same as when we signed it. If you don't know the condition of the property when you put it in a contract, that's an as is. And that just assumes that you're going to do it regardless of the condition. So just keep that in mind if you tell them it's an as is, regardless of the condition. But usually you should condition them before, or not condition, well, you should condition them, but you should get the condition of the property before you actually get it under contract so that you know if it has a new roof, needs foundation, if it has, any kind of big electrical problems. All right, and then this is defaults. So this one is pretty. I've never had it come into like I've never had it happen. This is probably pretty important though. I mean everything in here is important, but basically it's if they go bankrupt or default, any of the money deposited by your buyer shall be used for full liquidated damages. If the seller defaults, the buyer may pursue all remedies allowed by under law, and seller agrees to be responsible for any costs incurred by a buyer as a result of seller's default. I think, like again, I've never had this clause happen, but I think basically what it's saying is if your buyer kind of is backing out after giving their word and signing, the buyer will still get their deposit back, and the seller has a liquidation of any damages, so they basically have the damages that it cost them is going to be put to them, and then the buyer is allowed to have any costs of like closing damage or closing the title and all that, and having all of it done. They can get it paid by the seller. If they say, hey, we can't pay it, we actually can't do that. So that's kind of a niche one, but I'm sure there's a situation for it. So the next three are the most important ones in the contract, especially for probates and for actually getting a buyer. Successors and assignees. The terms and conditions of this contract shall bind all successors, heirs, administrators, trustees, executors, and assignees of the respective parties. So if you have a property and it's a probate, this is a super important clause for you. Or if, God forbid, the seller passes away and now it's to their son, it can be continued with them. So basically, it's still a valid legal contract, even if something were to happen with the person. Now, obviously, you want to get a affidavit of heirship for the new person in the heir when that happens. But it's basically saying that yes, the contract was legal, even if something were to happen to the seller. And then 7, sellers agreed to that buyers may advertise property and may have accessible during reasonable hours to show property to others. Very important. This is what allows you to basically go get buyers any photos that you've taken. This is what allows you to go get people on the ground to go take photos of the property. So whether you're purchasing someone through Fiverr, Craigslist, Facebook, whatever it is, this is what allows you to say, hey, I can actually do a showing with this. Even though we're not realtors, we have kind of almost like our own version of showing hours. So it's very important. And then the holy grail of wholesaling is this assignable part, number 8, and that's that this contract is assignable by the buyer. So what this means is that the later contract, the assignment contract, is going to be actually assignable. We can substitute ourselves as the buyer with a new buyer. So if Rihanna Keeves wants to transfer ownership over to Brian, he can make Brian pay for the property, and then he's going to get the closing assignment fee. So without number 8, there would be no wholesaling. If you were ever to do your own contract, that is the one that Zach always says you have to make it assignable. Otherwise, it means nothing. And then 9 is the inspection period. Some sellers I've heard are kind of like, hey, I need 7 days to inspect your property and then you can sell in 30 days, but I only want people in my house for like the next week, and then I don't want to see anyone afterwards. And it also means that that's like basically the part of like, hey, you can back out of it within the 7 days. So I typically, just to be on the safe side, always do 30 days along with the same as the closing. I just tell them it's the easiest if we make the closing and the inspection period the same. So I will rate it though real quick. So buyer shall have 30 days from effective date within an inspection period with which to have such inspections of the property performed as buyer shall desire, and utility services shall be made available by the seller during the inspection period. Buyer shall be responsible for prompt payment for such inspections and repair of damage to and the restoration of the property resulting from such inspections. And see if buyer determines in buyer's sole discretion that the condition of the property is not acceptable to the buyer may cancel this contract by delivering written notice of such election to the seller prior to the expiration of the inspection period. If buyer timely cancels this contract, the deposits paid shall be immediately returned to the buyer. Thereupon, buyers and sellers shall be released of all further obligations. Okay, so basically, what it's saying is that within the inspection period, they're able to go inside. They're able to get the access, like it says, to show people and not to advertise, but they're able to go get the people inside to go get the photos, to maybe send an inspector if they want to send an inspector, to get an actual reading of the house. And then if they want to back out, which is us, remember, we're the ones buying it right now. Rihanna Keys is the one buying it. So if you see that, hey, I can't, like I have 30 days of an inspection period, and on day 28 you realize I can't actually dispo of this contract. I got locked up for way too much. I don't have any buyers that are interested. I'm trying my hardest. You can back out because you're only 28 days out of the 30 there. But I've never heard of anyone holding it after that, but it definitely legally theoretically could be if you pass the expiration or the inspection period and the closing date. And that's why I like to make it. Usually they won't push for the closing date, like if you back out before the closing date, because you do have the inspection clause. But theoretically, they could try to push you to buy it with legal action. And they can't obviously make you purchase the home and put you in a whole bunch of debt, but they might be able to put you with like basically a lawsuit and then sue you for like time, which would be annoying. You can basically sue anyone for anyone. So for anything. So the additional terms and conditions right here are kind of used sometimes. I've had a couple clauses with it. I wish I had some example of my contract stuff, but this is a different computer. But basically, usually it'll be like, all right, no viewings past 5 p.m. Tenants must be told 24 hours before a viewing. Another one I've seen is garage. Oh God, I forget spell. Is left alone. So like if they have stuff they want to deal with, that one's a little bit of a red flag. But I mean, sometimes they're like, hey, I only have certain ones. I'd like rooms I would like not to be shown. But usually, if you built rapport, they're fine with it being the whole thing. And oh, and another one that you kind of see every once in a while is actual cash on retention, which means that they basically, as soon as the buyer buys it, they want actual physical cash. They don't want a check. They don't want a deposit. They want cash, which, however they want it. So, and then at the very bottom here, there's a buyer, seller. Now, when I first did this, how I thought it worked was that you would do the date. You can do it this format if you want. It doesn't matter. Or you can do the February one. It really does not matter. I didn't do 2024. I'm happy. So you could do either of those dates, but actually, what the two seller parts here for are actually for the two signatures. This is their signature box right here. These are the signatures. So when I first did it, how I did it, and I didn't know I actually made a mistake. It was as Anthony. That's how I did the first one, and then I got both their signatures below. And my title company let me know that's actually wrong. That's actually not how you're supposed to do it. They said they could work with it, but that well, actually no, they didn't. Now that I remember, they actually had me go re-sign it, unfortunately. But basically, you do, instead of that, you do Anthony's signature up top, and then the other signature on the bottom. And then for the buyer part, I know it's getting a little messy. You just do that. And the reason you don't need to do I thought, because a lot of documents have it, they make you title your name first, like actually written out, instead of the having it a signature right away. But the reason is that you already have the names up front. You already have it, it's already established. It's very simple. And then after you have the signatures there, that's good to go. You send it to the title company. They run the background on the title. They make sure that Anthony and Quintina are actually the signatures, like are actually the real people. They'll call them, they'll screen them, they'll ask for information, they'll run the title, and then they'll get back to you as soon as they have that. Typically only takes 1 to 2 days. In my experience, I mean, it kind of matters the title company, of course, but it's a pretty quick process. And yeah, that's purchase and sale. Does anyone have a question?
No, you did great.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so no questions. We'll just keep going on. All right, so this is the assignment of contract. Yet again, when you first download these, you have to kind of space them out because the assignment of contract will be on the top part. When I first printed them out like 2 years ago, I made that mistake and I had them. They looked really wrong. They were not right. It was bad. So I get kind of the assigner and assignee a little bit mixed up here, but we're gonna work with it. So the assigner is us, the wholesaler. We are the person assigning the contract, and the assignee is the person receiving the contract. So basically, what it does is I'm gonna do myself this one. So I'm gonna be signing the contract, or actually no, it was Keanu Reeves last time. He had it, so I'll be the buyer. I will be the end buyer. We're doing it. And then I'll be the assignee. And then, so the assigner has entered into a contract to purchase real estate with, and then right here you just do the assignee to, so it would be me again. And then basically what this is the next part is just basically going over the rights that are for each one, and you gotta have the legal description here, which I'm just gonna go copy whatever we put for this. It's just this right here. You don't really need to fill out these two parts. So honestly, unless you have an extra exhibit, like conditions of the property, you just have to do the address up here, and you don't need to do like, which is the legal description and legally described is the same is what I'm trying to say. So we can just do 3, 2, 1. All right. And then the assigner wants to assign the rights that he acquired on the contract to assign. So now we have the terms and conditions, and the parties agree and to follow the following terms and conditions. And I read these out loud so that you can feel confident whenever you go to a buyer or a seller and you know what's in these contracts. They're not hard. You're gonna figure it out. And once you do it once, it's a lot simpler. It feels kind of like scary before you do it the first time, but after you get your first contract signed, you're like, oh yeah, I can do this all day long. Like no worries. So the assigner assigns all rights that is acquired under the contract to the assignee. The assignee accepts all terms and conditions of the contract, and the assignee has reviewed the contract, which is attached here to Exhibit A, which can be like again property with like photos of it and everything else. Typically, you'll just have like the actual address, legal description, and maybe like some information about it. But really, this is good. This is all you need for the contract. And then the assignee accepts. Yeah, assignee fully understands the terms and conditions of the contract and represents to a signer that is willing and able to close the underlying transaction. That's where proof of funds comes in handy. They have to actually be able to pay. Don't try to do a creative finance deal with somebody that can't do any kind of deals. Assignee will deliver to assigners a cashier's check, money, or wire transfer as a deposit in the amount of. We're just gonna go. How much were we asked for? Actually, this is what it's based off of. Okay, so we need 100,000. So we're gonna get how much we're gonna sign. Well, how much we're gonna sell it for. That's what I'm wondering right now. So we're gonna get 25,000 out of it, which is kind of a lot, but oh well. So so that's just the total price of what it's all gonna be. The 4 was the assignee will pay a signer an assignment fee of 25,000. And at closing, the assigner will receive. Oh, I think I got these two mixed up. I did. There we go. You do the initial amount right there that you got a contract for, and then you do this is the total, and this is your total assignment fee, 25,000. And then so these clauses, these three clauses are just reviewed and gone over again right at the bottom. So the assignment fee will be added to the purchase price identified in the contract. The total amount owed by the assignees are as followed. And then here's where you have the minus deposit. We'll go over with and without that first. So the purchase price in the underlying transaction was $100,000. The transaction fee was $25,000, and then we're not doing deposit this. So at the end of it, it's owed $125,000. So that's pretty easy numbers. Makes it kind of easier when it's just clear cut like that. If it's not going to be like that, let's say you have a deposit you put $100 down for, though, as the buyer, or for the original buyer up here, if you put 100 where the total deposit was, then you have to do the minus deposit, and then the title company will yet again give that back to you, and then it changes to 14,000 because you minus the deposit from it, and the title company gives it back. And then number 7 is the assignee must close the underlying transaction on or before. So this is going to be the exact same as usually the inspection and closing date. So you just do March 30th, 2025. That's when it's due. And they put at 5 p.m. because it's typically when title companies close. It's kind of annoying if you're doing virtual and they're all different. And time is of the essence, and the assigner will be harmed if assignee fails to timely close. Assigner will, I will answer that in a moment. We'll select the closing agent. 8. If the assignee fails to close the underlying transaction by the date indicated in paragraph 17, assignee will forfeit its deposit, and all rights to the property under the contract will automatically revert back to the assigner. So the reason that it looks like this is because of the number 8 section right now. Usually the buyer will put up the deposit, not you. And they basically already paid the 100 into it, and so they actually do pay the 125,000 instead. And then number 9, if the assignee attempts to communicate to any sellers in any form, it will be immediately terminate this agreement, and they forfeit their deposit for liquidated damages. This is the most important clause if you ever make your own contract right there. I would say without a doubt. I've known deals, I have had deals stolen. Well, not deals, I've had a deal stolen, and I have known people that have had this done or done it, and you don't ever want to do it. You do not go around the wholesaler and try and talk to the person and give them a lower offer, because let's say they know that, we're going to sell it for $100,000, but we're trying to get a $25,000 assignment fee, right? What they will do is they will call some people. If they're very shady, this is why you qualify your buyers. They will say, hey, I'm just going to buy it for $110,000, and you save $15,000. They save $15,000 doing that, and they can maybe even give the seller more for it. And yeah, they'll say it's kind of greasy. It's not a good thing. So number 9 is very important. That's the most important thing of it. Basically, what they'll do is they'll offer the seller a bit more. It could be $1,000, $5,000. It could be whatever better price for it, and then they'll cut the wholesaler transaction out. But if you sign this agreement with the buyer, then they cannot do that. They won't do that. They just can't do it. And then number 10, if the assigner must deliver another call. Wow. The designer must deliver clear title at closing. If clear title cannot be given, then this assignment will be canceled and the deposit will be refunded to assignee. And 11, assignee will not contact the seller identified in the contract. Assignee agrees to communicate solely with and through assigner. All right, and then yeah, basically that's just repeating number 9. It's because it's very important. The number 12, the assigner may at any time before closing renegotiate the underlying purchase price in the contract with the original seller. A signer is entitled to the difference between the contract price and the assignment. The difference, if any, will be paid as an additional assignment fee at closing. The signer's negotiation of the purchase price will not affect the total due by closing agents. So typically, if you have wrote the agreement and you're doing it afterwards, what's going to happen is you're going to have where the maybe the buyer, and you haven't fully actually sent the contract off, they can back out and say, hey, you know what, I don't feel comfortable paying quite that price. Can you go knock out $5,000, or whatever. It's usually only the small flippers that they care about that. You're not going to get much like, hey, discount looking for prices from wealthy landlords or from hedge funds. They're just not going to care. They're like more at the brass tacks of the number anyways. So yeah, basically that's just saying that if you negotiate the difference, if you are in an agreement, this is where it kind of is nice though. If you negotiate it down as it, you can actually increase your assignment fee, is what that's saying, and you do have to write the difference in this section and correct it as well. So you can just edit the numbers. Let's say like, hey, I got it for actually 80,000 now, and I want like a way bigger assignment fee of like 40,000, like wait, not 400,000, of like 40,000. Then you can actually, basically how that works, where now they're getting 120,000, but you're getting way more. Like, so it's a similar price. I'd actually have to do the 2.5, but I'm pretty sure you guys get what I mean. And then yeah, close enough. And so that's what that means. The calls kind of threw me off a little bit. And 13, the property is sold as is. A signer will make no representation of the property condition. This includes permitting major structures, foundations, occupancy, mold, and any other property defect. A signee must do their own due diligence. A signee acknowledges that they are not relying on any representation of the condition of the property by a signer, and a signee has willfully agreed to assume all risks related to the condition of the property. This is pretty much wholesaler standard 101, is we buy properties as is. We don't do any kind of novations usually, some wholesalers do, but novations, usually there's more legal, or there's the wholetailing where you're actually trying to fix a property and then wholesale it. I would recommend neither of those when you're starting out at all. Just sell it as it is, and the buyer assumes all the risk. They know you should do your due diligence of making sure you get good photos of the property and run good numbers and bring them a good deal, because you want your buyers to be very happy. But if there's mold in the attic, you should hopefully be able to tell them that, like you should take photos of the attic, you should take photos of the roof. If the whole roof on the backside is broken and you didn't share that and they sign this, it's still going to go through. They can't do anything about it. They bought the property now, but you want to keep good relationships with your buyers. Very, very important. So, and then the last part is just if the deposit is not received. So let's say that, again, that $100 deposit, because we want our buyer to pay it, not us, unless your seller is very crazy about you paying it for some reason. And then that has to be, let's say, done within the next couple of days. They'd want a couple of days. And then you just do the dates. Now, if you're doing this virtually, how you most easily fill these out is you either open it in Word or you do it on Draw, and then you send it for the signatures, because this would be both the signatures now. Xleads can do it pretty easy. I can help anybody if they ever need for me to do a signature for you, like a virtual one. I can add signatures to it and send it off for you, because I have Xleads, but you can also do it for free via PandaDoc. And one other one I'm kind of spacing off the top of my head, but I know PandaDoc, you can do at least five free documents every month, and you can make as many accounts as you want. There's no cost, so you can just keep using emails. And then the assigner was Keanu Reeves. And then the assignee is yet again the buyer. The assignee is the buyer. The assigner is the wholesaler. Is the big thing to know with this. And this is would also that would be their signature. I should do this. And then we're done. So the process looks from start to finish with at least this is one, you get your title company hopefully first before you go to the seller so that you can add this part right here with the title company closing. You talk to the seller, you make sure the seller is going to get the price you would want. You go on the day of the appointment, or if it's virtual, you send it to them and you get them on the phone. I cannot emphasize that enough. People do not like signing documents on their own in the dark. It is not a good feeling. They like security and comfort. And if you're a comforting voice and you've built rapport and they know you and they trust you, you going through the contract will make the difference between whether they are going to go back and close the contract or whether they are going to let you actually sell their property. So it's very important that you actually close with the seller on the phone and you actually sign it up. As soon as you get it signed and you get your signature at the very bottom, you send it over to the title company. Title company takes 1 to 2 days. From there, the title company will send you back or message you back, be like, hey, yep, title's all clear, we're good to go. And then you'll say, hey, all right, cool, I'm gonna go find you a guy as a buyer. And then after that, you go find a buyer. But the buyer, you get them into a contract when they're gonna actually buy the property. You make sure to get their signature and all the signatures in the print on the bottom. You make sure all the numbers are right. You've already sent them the deals of it all and everything by then. Now remember, if they try, let's say they try to circumvent you, even though, because like later on in the section it says, hey, you cannot communicate to the person earlier, right, to try and get this price. Well, if you send them the address, then you'd be like, well, how come they can't just talk to me via the contract earlier, and why can't they just without signing it actually go and talk? Because I already sent them the address. We already have a purchase and sales agreement, and as long as the title company has record of this, they cannot sell the property to basically another person. We have actual legal right to the property. They can wait 30 days and do it. They absolutely could. They could try and douche canoe it that way, but they cannot basically circumvent you. And then this basically double reinforces it to where if they are now going to the seller, not only do you have a document already locked up with the seller, but you also now have a contract with the buyer. So that is very, very suable, and you will win the court every day, all day long. And then once you send the assignment contract to the title company, because you're going to do that after you get a signature, the title company will either do a double close or they will just do a normal close. And basically double closing is where you have it gets sold twice, it gets handed over twice, and that when you do that, it hides the assignment fee on the actual purchase and sale or the actual purchase of the property. So they only see that how much they pay. They don't see the actual amount you get, which is very useful when you're getting a higher closing assignment fee, because let's say a probate and they just need to get rid of it. So they had a lot of motivation, they just needed 50,000. The property, you get like 30,000 off of it. Some people will be like, whoa, why are you getting so much? So you can just double close. Not all states can double close, and not all states do title companies quite as easily. Sometimes you have to go through some states are basically attorney states where you have to go through an attorney with all this instead of a title company. Though usually title companies do operate, like for example, Ticor and Fidelity. I swear I'm not sponsored, but those two pretty much do nationally. They have attorneys on staff that will help you. So you don't have to actually go straight to an attorney. You can typically go to a title company, even in an attorney state, and you will find an attorney in their staff who will close it for you. All right. Any questions in that before I go on to JV? Oop, wrong screen. Nope.
Yeah, is there a contract on free wholesaling for a double close?
I typically no, you don't need a contract for double closing. You talk to your real estate attorney or the title company. You tell them that you're going to do a double close, and basically what they're going to do from there is that they're going to basically copy and paste the purchase and sale and then they're gonna have to go back to yourself. Because when I've done it, it doesn't. Actually, I haven't done double closing. I'll be upfront with that. But from what I understand, it's all the title company, and they just use the same documents, and they basically do a little title magic where they don't where it's a different kind of contract. Because remember, um, they are basically, when you have the assignment of contract, the title company is the one actually closing it. They're gonna be sending the details to the buyer of all the prices that came with the title closing, all the insurance that was with it, because they now own the property. So if they do it, they do basically do it in a way. I don't work at a title company, so I can't fully answer the question, but I'm pretty sure this is how it works. Is they do it in a way to where there's two different transactions, and it's the same deal, same exact things happening, but it's two deals, and they show the end deal where they were just paying for the property and not paying for the assignment fee, because they have one transaction where they're paying the assignment fee and one transaction where they're paying the actual contract for the deed. Does that make any sense?
The process makes sense, yes.
Mhm.
The question is more
But yeah, I don't
so,
think there's any contracts you need to sign. I think the title company handles it.
you still have to negotiate with the buyer then. Is it not with an agreement like this then?
No, it's still with this exact agreement. The title company will you have to talk to the title company about doing this. They will not do it without you asking. And some states don't, and some title companies do it. Some title companies don't do it. I have talked and searched about that. Um, so they're using the exact same contracts. They're just making two different transactions on it. So you can do and fill it out exactly how I said for the process. But at the end of it, it only shows the purchasing and the laying and the deposit. It doesn't show your assignment fee.
But if you send this document right now
Yes, this one,
to the
the
buyer,
assignment of
they would
contracts.
see that.
Yes, from how I understand it. If you get more info on that, feel free to share on the server. I might even look a little more into that. Typically, I condition my buyers where I tell them, hey, are you okay with me making like a lot of cash from giving you a wholesale deal that's a good deal that you'll make money off of? And they'll say yes. I've talked to a lot of buyers, and I've had the good ones will always say yes to that. And when you do that, they're not going to be as shocked with the amounts. But if it's obviously, like I said, a really, really big amount, like a probate or something, then yeah, that's where you double close. I've never had one of those personally, but uh, anything under 20K, you should be fine. Does anyone else have any questions?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, cool. Hope I answered that one good enough. So now we're going to go with.
By the way,
Oh, wait, what?
Scott is my friend in real life, so yeah.
Okay, yes. Hello. We say hello to him. Hello, hello. All right. So this one is, I'm not going to be able to edit because this one's just online. It's a PDF form. I could always open it if you guys really want to see that. But I don't think there's really much editing other than adding your names. And it's a little bit longer, but it's honestly, it's pretty much the same thing. It's super easy. And we don't even have to go over all the points, but I'm probably going to go over a lot of it. This is basically an agreement for when you have two different a JV is basically two, and just for, I mean, I'm sure we all know, but I'm just going to clarify for the new people, that agreement between two or three wholesalers typically, with a buyer and a seller being brought. Now, the scenario where it's two, you do have to edit the document a bit because it only has the two originating in the local, as you can kind of see there. You can make a third, or what you can do is you can have this same amount go, where you do two, and then you basically sign a JV with this agreement to another person. That is not daisy chaining. Zach has explained this on multiple of his lives. When that scenario happens is basically, let's say that I have a contract, I'm trying to get it disposed, and Anthony knows somebody that has a buyer, and Anthony still wants to make a little bit of money on the deal, so he's like, well, I can JV with you. We'll give you as the seller 50%, and then I'll bring my person with the buyer, and you can JV with them, and me and him will split whatever percentage we want. It could be 20-25, it can be a little bit 30-20, it could be however they want to structure it. And you can, like I said, you can either enter Those two can either enter a JV and then enter with you, or you can all enter into a JV. Doesn't really matter how it happens as long as it's on paper. So up here's the date, and then we're going to have the local JV partner and the originating JV partner. So that's a little bit important. You're going to have the names. I kind of wish I could edit it now, but basically how you're going to know the difference between these two is, and the easiest is you go down to their duties right here. And so the local JV partner is basically usually the person that will help you go and get the cash buyer. He'll be the one that will really, really keep in contact with you and will keep in, like, he basically keeps you in the loop for when you're going to get a buyer and who he's going through and all that. If you enter into a JV agreement and they don't really ever text you or message you or do anything with you, then it's not a good JV partner. It's just not. So you can change these duties. These are fully editable, but the originating partner is basically the person that found the seller. So they're going to update the details on it. They're going to ask the seller any questions of like, hey, can we go get this day scheduled for a buyer to come look at the property? Can we get like photos on this? The originating JV partner is the originating person that brought the deal, basically. Typically, the originating JV partner in my head will get a good amount, at least 50, because without them going with the seller, there's really no deal. There are some people that think the opposite. They think, hey, I brought a buyer, without me there's not a deal, so they try to do like a 40-60 split, and I don't like that. Up to the people that on what they want to agree on. At the end of the day, we're all trying to look for money, so you gotta find what's comfortable with you. So the number one business of a JV agreement is for business. You'll do your address right here, and it's for the purpose of renovating and sale for profit or wholesaling. Keyword wholesaling. The local JV partner shall not be involved in the purchase of nor the renovation of the property, nor any other obligation of the party under this agreement. Local JV partner is legally binding partnership with, and then you'll put your name. So the local partner is kind of the add-on. The original is there. So you put the originating JV right there. And your company or you, I typically erase this if you don't have an LLC, will be the same as the local JV partner on the profits of this joint venture. Now, if there's different splits, you can always change this, and you would add, for right here, you would change this amount too. This is going to be the important part. You'd say 40, 60, 30, 70 if it's really bad. I don't know what scenario, but. And then you got the term of the agreements, and that's that this joint venture shall commence on the date first written above, which is going to be right there. So, and shall continue in existence until terminated, liquidated, or dissolved by law, or as herein provided. Typically, you'll just like either close the deal or you can't find it, and then you say, hey, it's not working, I'm sorry, and then it just kind of ends. You don't have to really follow up on it. And what you do with this agreement when it is all signed and said and done is you do actually send it to the title company after you've both signed with it, so that they can add you legally to the documents of getting your wholesale fee. Do not let your partner sign it on, get your buyer, get the contract signed, send it, and then you don't have a JV already in place sent to the title company. The title company needs to always be involved in every process of a wholesale deal. They are basically the only protection you really have against the rest of the world besides your contracts. So, all right, and then the obligations of the joint ventures, the duties and obligations of a local JV partner are set forth in the detail attached to Exhibit A, incorporated adherence by this reference, and the duties of the JV partner, originating JV partner, are attached on Exhibit B, which are these. And I would recommend, these Exhibit A and Exhibit B. And I would recommend you actually pay attention to these and you actually write and go over what each of you are going to do. You can totally erase these and write in what you want, but you want to at least keep in kind of in lock key with the original partner, keeping in contact with the seller and letting them know of any buyers going by, any showing dates, keeping details on the detail should be on part of both of their both of the criteria should be on that, but the local partner that's finding the buyer definitely needs to keep up as much communication possible. Very important for the buyer, JVer, to be like, hey, I haven't found a deal. Even it doesn't have to be every day, but if they're not updating you regularly, it's kind of worrying because you've already spent this time going into this deal. Now, if you have a JV, so I'll talk about this real quick. If you have a JV partner that is not doing their side, and you went and you found a cash buyer on yourself, you absolutely can terminate the actual contract here. You can terminate it. It's a douche thing to do. But if you find a buyer and they haven't held up to their side and you have not expressed it in this, then you can mutually basically agree to end this, because you can say, hey, you didn't bring me a buyer. It's been like 2 weeks. I need to close it next week. I'm gonna go enter into a new agreement. Now it'll be kind of wishy-washy if you just do it without telling them. Then you are going to be liable to getting sued. You have to if you get everything communicating, you'll be fine whenever it comes to JVing. That's like the most important part. And then the profits and losses upon the sale of the property and after the receipt of all proceeds therefrom, the parties here too will be reimbursed their actual out-of-pocket expenses, debts, and costs directly related to this JV agreement in which both parties agreed in writing. After all such expenses, debts, and costs related to the JV agreement and the property have been repaid, the property agreed to split the net proceeds as follows. Obviously, a lot of that doesn't apply because we don't pay out-of-pocket expenses for somebody to go find us a deal. So this is kind of like in part also a flipper joint ventureship, so that's why it's kind of worded this way, I've noticed. But it's basically saying, hey, you're both going to get the same pay in these degrees, and if there's a third person, you can do 33%, 33%, 33%, or you can do 30 or 50%, 20%, and then 30% on somebody. Like it's how you guys talk about it and be transparent about it. And number 5, once this agreement is signed, originating JV shall not advertise, direct, or otherwise attempt to bring a buyer to the transaction without consent from local JV partner. And then the duty of the local JV partner is to facilitate the sale of the contract to purchase property, i.e. assignment of contract for profit, and distribute funds while communicating with the local JV partner to assist in any way possible. Now, I know what I just said with all the, like, if I find a buyer, but I've done JV deals before, and what happens is that, like I said, if the person's actually not doing it, you should let them know, hey, I need you to find a buyer. They're not communicating. Typically this doesn't really come into play. I've never had it actually happen where if they aren't doing their part, they're not gonna make a fuss about it. If they do, then that's where you go with the writing and the text, and you say, hey, you didn't do your side, so I didn't do my side. We mutually agreed to do both sides. Like, this is just me trying to figure it out. Or you express, this is a great way to do it too. You add a clause in here that there's no obligation for the local or the originating JV partner to go with the local JV partner if he doesn't find it in time. So if you say there's no obligation, if you have them write it, because you want to make sure it's either in text or actual writing that there is no obligation, then that basically dissolves this clause for you to protect yourself as the person with the actual deal on the seller side. And then, yeah, that's just basically how you go around that. I mean, it really sucks when partnerships don't work out, but if one partner is not doing their side and they said, hey, I'm going to bring you this awesome dealer or this buyer and we're going to make a bunch of money, and then they do absolutely nothing, you want to be able to still go find a buyer and not waste your time. So you have to keep in contact and you have to keep between what you put in your exhibits, which is why I said these duties are very important. And then 6, the indemnification of the joint ventureship. The parties of this agreement shall have no liability to or the other for any loss suffered from which arised out of any action by or inaction by a party if in good faith it is determined that such course of conduct was in the best interest of the joint ventureship and such course of conduct did not constitute negligence or misconduct. The parties to this agreement shall each be indemnified by another's against losses, judgments, liabilities, expenses, and amounts paid in settlement of any claims sustained by its connections with the joint venture. Each party shall also bear the cost of its own attorney's fees. So that's another thing that kind of protects you, is that if they were to sue you, it would be out of their pocket and you would have to pay out of your pocket. So nobody wants to do that. No one wants to pay for a lawyer. It's fucking insane. They charge a lot. And then 7, dissolution. The joint ventureship shall be dissolved upon the happening of any of the following events: a abjuration, bankruptcy, filing or a petition of partisan of a chapter of the Federal Bankruptcy Act, withdrawal, removal, or insolvency of either parties. So if they can't pay or do anything with it, then that would be a part of it for wholesaling. Like if they say, hey, I'm going through a rough time, I'm going bankrupt, they could theoretically get out of one, but that's pretty rare. And then the B is the sale or disposition, which is the most common one, not excluding an exchange of all or substantially all of the joint venture assets. Basically, when it gets deposition and you actually get the deal sold, then the contract's over. Or C, written mutual agreement of the parties. So, going 8, to complete the agreement. The agreement constitutes the full and complete understanding and agreement of the parties hereto in respect to the subject matter hereof, and there are no agreements, understandings, restrictions, or warranties among the parties other than those set herefore. Any modifications to this agreement must be basically written down and signed by all the parties hereto. So if you're going to change any of it and you're going to go back to it, you can kind of hold them and twist them and say, hey, you're not doing your side. I want to basically hold you more liable and accountable for this if you don't start doing your actions of trying to find me a buyer. Or if it's the other way around and your seller is in the person with the originating JVer who has the property, if they're not trying to actually show you the property to people, if they're not working with you, if they're not keeping in contact with the seller, then you can basically hold them more accountable by adding amendments to it. Okay, and then 9, no partners created or intended. The parties of this agreement intend to set forth their mutual obligations with respect to one venture regarding the property only. Nothing hereunder is intended or shall it create any partnerships or agency relationship between the parties. Neither party shall take any action or refrain from any action that would cause the establishment of the partnership under state law. Matters your state, this is where you enter in. Anything highlighted, you have to actually enter. Should a partnership relationship be interfered with or inadvertently created, the parties will take all necessary steps to terminate and unwind such relationship immediately, and any such relationship is expressly terminated at the termination of this agreement. Neither party shall be liable for the acts, obligation, claims, liabilities, or debts of hereunder, and that's usually more for flippers. And neither party shall have the power to bind or obligate the other except as set forth herein, meaning that you can't just expect something that you guys have not already talked about. Transparency is key. That's why you should at least talk about it and then always get it in writing or text, because if it is in text, then you have a good case and they're not going to be able to sue you. If you try to text somebody and ask them, hey, am I obligated to go with you for a buyer? Like, am I only able to use you as a buyer? And they say no, then with that message, they have basically sealed that they will not be able to do that. I would also recommend getting that in an actual text, like physical text message rather than Discord. But I mean, if it's a good JV agreement and it's a good property, then you should be fine. Severability, and if any portions of the agreement shall be declared invalid, illegal, or unenforceable in any respect by a court of competent jurisdiction, the remainder of this agreement and any other application of any other provision shall not be affected thereby, all of which shall be construed as if affected provision had not been contained herein. Basically saying that you can sever the relationship if something is completely invalid or illegal or wrong and that the courts actually rule with you. So by that time, you're already kind of arguing a lot. And then this agreement shall be binding upon and ensured the benefit and the enforceable by the respective successors, heirs, and assigners of the parties hereto. Oh, I don't really remember this one. Okay, this would be. Oh, this is basically for the parties here too. So if you have a company with like an LLC, and let's say you're the successor or you're assigned to the LLC, you're still part of it even if you enter into the agreement with just an LLC. That doesn't get you out of basically doing the agreement. You're still held as an individual accountable to this. And then 12 captions, the paragraph headings of the agreement are for convenience for reference only and shall not limit or otherwise alter the meaning thereof. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Counterparts, this agreement shall be simultaneously executed in multiple counterparts, each of which was also executed and delivered, shall constitute an original and fully enforceable counterpart or a single agreement for all purposes, which means basically that this is what we agreed on and this is what's going to happen and you can't really counter it because we've already agreed on it. And then governing law, this agreement shall be governed by and construed in accordance with the laws of the state when you enter your state. And if, just to clarify here, when it says your state, it does not, like, let's say, I partner with Anthony, he's in Chicago, I'm in, Washington. We do the state of where the deal is at. You do not do this, you don't do this, the different states for where you two are at. You do it for where the deal is, where you enter the property up above, because the property is what's holding it together, basically. And then 15, real estate investing has a financial risk. Both parties will strive for a positive outcome, but not can guarantee a profitable outcome. Please seek legal and financial counsel in regard to this agreement. And real estate investing does really have a risk. And one way to minimize the risk is to be transparent with it. If you are telling people about your agreement, then and you are telling everything and you're being forthright with what you're saying, you're a lot more covered than if you wouldn't. And specifically, I'll even give a tip for flipping. If you enter into flipping that and you enter into a JV, because I have seen this before happen in my real life. If you enter a JV with somebody and you're going to flip a house, please, for the love of God, put in a clause about what happens if you lose money on the deal, because a lot of the time there'll be one person that brought the deal, brought it to this other person, and the other person knows how to, flip houses, and they bring them this awesome deal that could be very well done once the flip's over and everything. And then when they actually go to sell the property, it sells for under the market, and then they now have lost money instead of gaining profit. They have lost money, and the person that put no money in now owes money to the person that put all the other money in. And that shouldn't have been how it was. They put no money in, so they shouldn't have had any risk with it, because they were just bringing the deal, and they didn't clarify that, and it cost them a lot when I had it happen. So it wasn't for me, but as nobody I know. And then 16, time is of the essence. Time is the essence with respect to obligations and responsibilities the parties hereunto, and witness the parties hereto have executed the assignment of the day and year witness above, signed and sealed and date of. And this is where you both sign. You just add another line. If there's a third partner, you just add it right there. And then we'll go really quickly over the duties. Like, I'm not going to read all of it, but where the JV comes into play is after you have gotten the seller's contract. You'd never want to do a JV deal beforehand. There's not really much point without a property, because you can't really put the property in, and you're kind of being a little assumptuous that you're going to get one even for wholesaling. So it's only after you do it, and the sooner the better if you're going to enter into a JV. Like, let's say me and Andre, we were talking about entering into a JV for finding a possible buyer for one of my deals right now. And if I were to enter into an agreement with him, it's going to be as soon as I have it under contract. So, and I'm looking for buyers myself, and we've been kind of going through, because it's a probate, so there's like a lot of moving parts and like a lot of legal stuff with it. So as soon as I want to find buyers, and I have to find buyers because I have to find it as soon as I can, as soon as it's all said and done, I enter into this JV agreement with him like immediately, and I would be the local partner with the deal, or I mean not the local, the originating, and then he would be the local. Now, with our case, it might be like, for example, or any case, it might be say, hey, we're both going to look for buyers so that we can find it as quick. I'm still going to give you part of the deal even if I find a buyer. That's something you can totally add in, and you should talk about before. It's all about transparency, like I said. All right, we're going to go quickly over the duties of both sides. So, because we already kind of did. So the local partner is the person that buys it. They help them provide coach and guidance to the originator, and they basically tell them how to market and sell it, the contract, if they need to. They also just renegotiations with the seller and assistance with anything that they would need for the JV under the terms of the contract. And then 2, the contract will work with the list of potential buyers in regards to this JV. Includes tip trading and the softwares and anything. The big part for this part is that the local JV partner, the person bringing in cash buyers, should always qualify their cash buyers. If you do not qualify your cash buyers, you are asking for trouble. So that's a big part right there. And then they'll answer any questions from the originating JV partner within 24 hours. That's right there. It's the communication. You have 24 hours. So if you send them a text and they do not do it back in that 24 hours, they are in breach of this contract. And then if you go and you find a buyer now, I wouldn't do it exactly within 24 hours, but let's say it's been a week, they haven't talked to you at all, and they haven't, you ask for an update. Hey, how's it going with this? Have you found a buyer yet? And they don't answer you for a week, they have broken the contract. Now you can basically go and start looking for the buyer, and you should tell them, hey, I'm going to change the agreement. Like, we're going to go do this. I need you to sign off on either dissolving this or amending it because you haven't been following it your part. And then 4 is that the local JV partner understands that communication is the essence with this JV agreement, and the lack of communication will not be tolerated by either party to the JV agreement. And 5, to choose facility and coordinate the title company in regards to the terms of this JV agreement and the originating purchase and sale agreement. So this is if you're checking to make sure the title company is like actually legit. That is definitely the local JV's deal. You want to typically have a title company already kind of figured out. But when you're the seller and when you're working with the seller and you're the originating JV partner. But if you have to change title companies because let's say now you want to go into double close, or if you have some issue with the title that they won't go, or maybe they don't have an attorney on staff and you thought they did, then it's the part of the local JV partner to find a new title company. And then the originating partner will basically update Podio or whatever kind of CRM you guys use about the deal. They'll give you every detail. You don't have to actually use CM. You can email them every detail about the deal. That's typically how it's done. And then you'll stay in direct communication with the seller. So that's very important because if the partner, your local JV partner should be saying, hey, I'm sending somebody to go get photos of the property. Can you go actually talk to them and tell them, hey, there's going to be somebody showing up tomorrow at 5 at your door to take photos. Can you let them in? So very, very important. And then you just take all responsibility for communication with the partner, with the local JV partner, your seller, and title company to facilitate a successful outcome to this JV agreement for all parties involved. And 4, you take all photos and assistance needed with the cash buyers, contractors, or facilitate additional parties through the direction of your local JV partner in the regards. Now, this doesn't really apply to virtual wholesaling as much. If you're local, then absolutely. But originating partners, you typically just talk about it. Is like, hey, we need to take photos of it. We need to go do it. Typically, you'll have photos before you even go find a JV partner because people don't really want to partner up with somebody that they don't know what the property looks like, they don't know how damaged it is. But they could argue, and you could change this section if you want. But yeah, you could say, hey, the originating JV partner has to pay the fees, not me. If you're the local JV partner, if you're the person trying to find the cash buyer, you can say, hey, you got to do that part. I can't pay to have somebody take photos. It's definitely enforceable, but it's like usually they'll be okay with it. And then 5, make sure all contracts are compliant with law. And that is basically it. All right, any questions? I either put everyone to sleep, or you all are thinking, or you all are doing something else.
Great. That was actually very informative, and I'm glad that you went over that because I am not as lost as I was. So
Nice.
I appreciate that.
Okay, good. Yeah, definitely. I think once you do your first actual contract and you go over, like when you're first doing it, it looks scary, especially with this. But this one, the purchase and sale, is so easy after you've done it the first time. Like it looks like a lot, but it's really not. It feels more than it is. It's like a beast with its chest puffed up, but it's actually like a little kitten. So no one else has any questions. Did y'all learn something? Did I do good? Zana said that, but I'm just making sure everyone else is good. We also opened up to mics if you all wanted to start talking. I'm not gonna do anything. Okay, Anthony's here. Nice.
Yeah, that was it was very informative.
Okay, nice. Good. I'm glad. So Derek, you good? Or Andre, you guys learn anything?
Agreed.
Agreed? Nice. Okay, glad. We had a good session then. If you have any
Mm.
questions about getting it signed with the signatures, yet again, you add them through PandaDoc or XLeads or anything else, because virtually you're going to have them sign. If it's in person, obviously it's a lot easier. Just click the signature. And if you're not sure how quite to do that, just let me know. I can totally do I can basically get you the signature for you, send you a link, and then you can send the link to the person. You can email it to them or text it to them, and they'll just go and sign it. And that's an easy way to get it done.
Was that site you recommended for obtaining a legal description?
Oh yes. Here, I'm gonna type it out just so we have it on the chat, so it's gonna be in the general chat right now.
Oh, and for getting signatures, I believe it's either Rabbit Sign or Sign Rabbit. I don't remember which order it is, but it's free unlimited signatures as well.
Yeah. Sorry, that was the one I was thinking of. Thank you so much, Anthony. I
About
was trying to think of the rabbit one so much. Yeah, where PandaDoc works, I put them. So the Zillow Rare, Prop Wire, X Leads, or County Assessor, because you can go straight to your court. Do not fear your court or your county clerk. You can go there. You can ask for it. Oh, or the title company. You can also ask the title company. They will, if especially if they've done deals with you before or you've talked to them before. If you are really, really shy, you can always ask us to find it. I send, I'm like literally multiple people here can attest that I send like snapshots of the X leads photos of like the description of like a good deal, what it is, the wholesale amount, retail, and like it usually has the property description in it and the property owner. I do that all the time. I don't mind. It takes like literally a minute of my time, and yeah. All right, well, I'm pretty happy about this. I don't know what our next one is going to be. I do plan on doing more like live streams and videos. Possibly going over like a phone call I've done. Gibson was asking me about that. He's been cold calling and helping me, and he's been learning a lot about it. I've been mentoring him for a couple weeks, and I've had other people in the past do it. So I think the next one's going to be about finding leads and cold calling. For the next stream, that's what I was kind of thinking. I'm not sure on date yet. It'll probably be next week. If that kind of sounds good to all y'all.
Well, what I was so what so what I was so what I was sorry, I'm a little bit stuttery. So what I was maybe thinking of is maybe we could do this at least once a week.
Once a week? Yeah, that sounds good. I like that.
So maybe like on a Friday or Saturday or like
Mhm.
whatever time of day or week or
Okay.
day of the week that most people are off.
All right. Yeah. You know what? We'll do a poll right now. How do I do a poll again? I forget. Right there.
Yeah, I'm sometimes known to have a little bit of stutterness, so sorry if I sometimes stutter.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave this in the server. Everyone go vote your most free day, and we'll see whatever aligns with the most people. So just yep, everyone like when you get a chance, go vote on this. Say whatever days you're freest, and then we'll host them on there, and I will record them. So let's say it's not on a day that you have, that's okay. I will record it, and it'll be just the audio of me talking. It won't be any of the actual questions or anything. So you will miss a little bit out on that. It'll be a bit better to be in person, but you will still get all the content of me reviewing what's going on. All
Sounds
right.
good.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I have done my part. I'm probably gonna go use the bathroom and get some water and stuff. It was good talking to y'all, and I hope y'all have a good night. Probably gonna
You
It
too.
close
was
though.
really good.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate you guys.
And then
Okay, wait, what? I heard my name. I think that was thank you.
that's all.
Oh yes, okay. It was. All right, awesome. All right, y'all have a good night. All right, go.
You too.
Later.
Oh, still on, isn't it? Hello?